$1975, Chapter 231, the notice requirements have been satisfied. The meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the municipal center, and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Salute to the flag, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have a roll call, please. Omar.
Councilmember Corsair.
Here.
Councilmember Dayton.
Here.
Councilmember Michaels.
Present.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor.
Here.
Councilmember Park.
Here.
Councilmember Roleri. Mayor Zimmer.
Here. First thing on the agenda is an update on the Dean Drive properties. Jeff Zen, you're here to help us with that, right? Come on up.
Good evening. I'm not sure what exactly you want to know in terms of the update, where we are. I think you've all been updated in terms of the status of negotiations with the redeveloper agreement, which is to say that we've learned after negotiating redeveloper agreement for quite some time that the entity that we were negotiating with does not own all the property any longer. And that's the status of where we are after having negotiated a comprehensive redevelopment contract.
So I'm going to, just a couple of questions. So we know the status of the hotel has been purchased by a new individual, owns a new entity
That is correct.
that's separate from the original overall group, right?
That's correct. The group that we were negotiating with that owned the totality, as far as I know, still owns the southerly piece. The northerly piece, the hotel, was sold off relatively soon after the redevelopment plan was adopted, unbeknownst to us.
Doesn't that nullify the redevelopment plan or nothing to do with that?
Well,
It doesn't. If
no, the redevelopment plan
was based on.
had specific covenants in there,
Right,
that
Hotel.
representations that they owned all the property.
so it does nullify.
So, well, they,
Jeff,
I mean, if
it's a different-
assuming they had ever signed it,
plan.
it would have, there would have been a breach. But beyond that, as I think the council will recall, it required the developments to be developed together. That is to say, you couldn't develop the assisted living without first doing the hotel. So I don't even know what to make of
You don't know what to
why
say.
we weren't told all this. I mean, I don't even know to what end, because it just didn't make sense. And we had very specific provisions in there about the types of refurbishment and rehab to the hotel that was required. And as I say, that was all required. That was all, a condition to be able to get a certificate of occupancy to occupy the assisted living facility. So I don't understand it. It just doesn't make sense. But that's where we are.
Go ahead, Laura.
We declared an area in need of redevelopment.
Correct.
So what conditions I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me. I haven't looked at it in a little bit. What conditions did we have to create that area under that statute?
I don't recall the exact, I mean, there was a study done, right, that the council had in front of it when it determined that the conditions were appropriate for making that. And I think one of them was that the fact that, particularly the property to the south of the hotel, the south property had become, how do I put it?
Dilapidated?
Okay. And the property to the south had also become underutilized.
So I just want to in terms of what we discussed for the existing hotel property, that was included in the area of redevelopment. But if it's hard not to do this in public, it's hard to figure this out here. If if this new entity, is this new entity then abiding by those conditions?
So just to make clear,
Yeah.
backing up a little bit. When you have a redevelopment, as Jeff suggested, there's a study done first in order to determine that the block and lots that are part of that study actually meet the definition of the state statute of what is an area in need of redevelopment. That was found on those southerly lots. Remember, they had other building structures on them that had since been knocked down. Those structures were up at the time the study was done. A redevelopment study looks at the current conditions. It doesn't say what you're going to do. Now, the next step after that's designated is the adoption of the redevelopment plan, which is adopting what the zoning is for it, right? What Jeff was talking about earlier with the lots being under the same ownership, that was part of the requirement also for the redevelopment agreement, which the council since rescinded authority to enter into once we learned that all of the properties weren't under single ownership, because that was one of the conditions of the redevelopment agreement. So there's 3 different steps. I just want to make sure everybody has those clear. Conditions into what the developer would do would be in a redevelopment agreement. That was not executed.
Got it.
The plan is zoning. And I think it might be helpful, Jeff, if you wanted to let everybody know what the redevelopment plan zoning, how explain like the overlay portion of it, and that there's still the underlying zoning and what that is. Because obviously the redevelopment plan is envisioned can't
Isn't
really
happening.
move forward, since part of the hotel, like the lots were going to be merged together and then separated again. So that design won't work under separate ownership.
At this point, can the owner of the southern land, can they do anything or they can't do anything?
So the redevelopment plan is what we call an overlay zone. Okay, so you can take advantage, the developer or redeveloper can take advantage of that zoning. The redevelopment plan. The redevelopment plan provides for 2 principal uses, 2 permitted uses: assisted living or congregate care housing, and hotels.
And
there are
what?
some-
Hotels.
Hotels. And there are some accessory uses. And so you could take advantage of that, or because it's an overlay, you can still utilize, if you want to take advantage of the underlying zoning, you can do that. We had a few months ago, an applicant come in front of the planning board that was in an affordable housing overlay zone. It worked more efficiently for them to utilize the underlying zoning, and they utilized the underlying zoning because that was an overlay. They could have used the overlay, but it was more efficient for them to use the underlying zoning, and they were still an affordable housing unit. But I'm just saying, that's the same thing here. They can use the underlying zoning. The underlying zoning is the B2 zone. That allows any use in the B1 zone. In addition, business secretarial schools, hotels, museums, art galleries, libraries, and the B1 is your downtown business district.
What are some of the things in B1? What is
B1
some of the,
is your downtown business district,
so
retail
mixed use
stores,
development?
retail stores, personal service, yes.
Library?
But they can't use the overlay.
They can.
They cannot. Not really.
They cannot take advantage of it because they don't own. You need one developer.
Correct. So it's the underlying usage.
Right,
You
exactly.
can't do
And
Wait a minute, so can they build residential there?
so Mayor,
One or
your
two.
question was, because they're allowed B1.
Right.
And B1 allows dwelling units above the first floor. So it's like your downtown district where you have commercial in the bottom.
2 stories above, right? Okay,
So
thank you.
just so the public understands, so the Dean Drive project that was going to be the assisted living in the hotel, so that's no longer, there's a new owner of the hotel. I mean, I think for the public out there who's listening and are very interested in that, seeing that this project was going ahead, there's a lot of questions. Is it going to head ahead? And clearly it's not. So,
The assisted living is not.
and we have no agreement with the current hotel owner at this time.
nor the other owner.
It's irrelevant because he's not
Neither of them.
anything to do with the other.
Yeah,
property.
neither of them. It's dead.
Okay, I just want to clarify that for our public.
Yeah.
And
Just for clarification, he has come to us to discuss some of the things he wants to do there to upgrade that hotel. So we're waiting to see if he actually makes those applications.
Which he's free to do so.
Pardon me?
Which the hotel is free to do so.
They want to do upgrades to the
Because he's
building,
not,
add some rooms.
tied to this
Yeah.
development
They
plan.
want to add some rooms, upgrade the building, sure.
Right.
And that's a permitted use.
Right, it's a
Right,
permitted use.
because he's not in this development plan. He's not tied to it.
Well, he's not tied to it, but
Right.
in the underlying B2 zone, it's permitted use.
Right now, yeah.
we updated our stormwater management ordinances. And one of the things that we were excited about, the old plan, was that we were going to have some water control, some stormwater flooding controls. And I guess we can't enforce anything on area need around the hotel, right?
The area need has nothing to do with stormwater. Those requirements come into play when you add on to a development. If
If it's as is.
If they're just
Stays.
making renovations in the existing box, there, you would not have to do any upgrades on stormwater now.
I think I knew that, but thank you.
Right, but if they come in for a site plan approval, depends upon how extensive their renovations are. Then those types of things may come into play. But if they're just going to do interior renovations, that's just a building permit.
There
Who
you go.
has more questions for Mr. Zen?
I'm glad you came in, but yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
It's,
Could have done this myself.
Any other questions for Jeff? Jeff, anything else you want to enlighten us with?
That's, I just, to Councilwoman Dayton's question, though, if you recall, we added some heightened stormwater
Mhm.
provisions in the redevelopment.
Correct.
Mhm.
But you got to comply with the redevelopment plan. And those are some of the benefits that would accrue to.
Right.
Okay, thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right, take
Have a
care,
good
Jeff.
night.
Good to see you. All right, tree ordinance discussion.
Yes, we have, there's a couple ends of the tree ordinance discussion. One is, we've been approached by a couple of residents who have faced forfeiture of their escrow because they have not been able to plant the required number of trees based on the calculation. And part of the issue is, as I understand it, is that there's not enough land on their property to plant all the trees that they would be required to plant. So they're looking for some due process relief or appeal process to the governing body from a determination of the DPW director regarding the number of trees that they would have to plant, or to get some relief from that number of trees if the property size is not adequate to handle that number of trees. And then on the other end of the spectrum, a couple of the council members had brought the subject up of landmark trees and how they get designated and whether or not there needs to be or should be some changes to the ordinance around that question.
So can I talk to the first
Julie,
part?
then Lauren, yeah.
So our tree ordinance, just as an explanation to anyone out there, much in the same way as other ordinances I've read, is precisely this. It's the calculation is to replace, to mitigate what you've taken away. If you cannot do that on your own property, then yes, you forfeit that amount of money to go to our shade tree, our fund that benefits the whole town. We've been able to put up hundreds of trees throughout town in the last couple of years. We're doing all right with it. I want to just highlight, we were able to put up many, about 100 trees in the nature center from that fund. So, while I appreciate that there is a certain population that's maybe frustrated that they can't put the trees back in the property that they took them from, that's actually our first primary goal, is we always want them replaced in the area that they were taken from. But, sometimes the footprint of the house gets too large, and we allow them to forfeit, quite frankly, that money, so it helps the town writ large. So That's just how a shade tree fund works. So I would not be supportive of, now a relief situation. We have a calculation and it makes it fair for everybody in that situation.
And I think, I know that the councilwoman's gonna go, but I think, the other part of it is that we have a mechanism right now that, someone could appeal the determination of the zoning officer if he determines that he's not going to issue a tree cutting permit. That can come to the governing
Comes to the
body.
governing body, we've had that.
But we don't have that same mechanism in this regard. So basically, right now, it's the determination of the DPW director ends. And I think what's being requested is that there should be an appeal process
It's a hardship
above
appeal.
that.
We've had the hardship appeal when DPW director has made determination.
No, not this type.
No, so we've had, when there's a determination, we added in a specific process a few years ago for a determination that a tree cannot come down.
Right.
The hardship appeal was always there, where if somebody has trouble with the mitigation, there's a hardship appeal section as well.
Okay, so maybe they're not aware of that. So so it's already covered. They can use that
It's
to
already in
appeal,
the-
okay, very good.
Lauren?
I want to talk on both points, actually, that David raised, and completely agree with Julie. This ordinance is intended to keep the trees where the trees were. The homeowner makes the decision to cut down major trees. For example, there's, I'll talk about it later, our planning board decision is going to cut down a tree that requires 70-plus trees, and I don't see them being able to mitigate that on the property. They're going to have to pay money into escrow. The tree is a 200-plus-year-old beech tree, that's healthy.
And just for edification purposes, the reason why it's not direct one tree to one tree is because obviously an old growth tree provides more benefits than a newly planted little shrub that's going to grow. So that's where the calculations are made by people far smarter than I, to use one of the council president's favorite terms. But that's when it's done, where you can't plant a tree with a circumference that's extremely large or it's going to die. You can't move it from one place to the other. So that's why it's more small trees to make up for one large one.
That's right. And so the ordinance is in place with the concept to protect what exists on the property. The homeowner makes a choice to take that down. And when they do that, our ordinance is very clear. It's not a hardship to have to mitigate and replace trees or pay money into escrow, which, as Julie explained, then the town uses to replant trees all over town. You in the public, if you don't know, can ask our shade tree division to come to your property and put trees on your own property, and our DPW will do just that. And it's really an amazing benefit that we continually replant here at Tenafly. So I would not be willing to entertain this, it's not fair sort of hardship. I don't believe it's a hardship. You've made a choice as a property owner to take that down. The second thing is, I do want to talk about the landmarking of trees. The way our ordinance is written is that a property owner themselves needs to ask for landmark designation and needs to then go to Mike Cassidy, our DPW director, to landmark a tree. I believe the intention, and Julie, since you helped write the ordinance, was that the trees that are of a certain circumference of type, let's say the beech tree that's 200 years old, would be designated as landmark without having to go through a property owner asking for it. I don't see too many property owners upon the sale of their house saying, all trees need to stay. And so it's almost a self-defeating ordinance as written, which
The problem
is,
with that is similar to a landmark historic designation on, and any type of designation on a property, you have property owner rights, and they can always object to it. So even if somebody else was going to say, I think it should be designated, it still has to have some input and process with the landowner, because it's their property.
so in other communities, so I hear you. And so I actually have looked this up. In other communities, designate historical or landmark trees over a certain age. Like if your tree is more than, for example, 150 years old, the town wants to protect it. There is a public community benefit to protecting these older trees. There's less soil erosion, there's less disruption of property, there's, shade that provides, climate help, whatever the environmental reasons are, that there is a public benefit to maintaining these trees. I believe when we wrote and passed the ordinance that we wanted to maintain those public benefits. Our ordinance as written will never get enforced. So we as a council have to take a look at that. And I would like us to take a look at that.
I think that's what they were going to be. I know we were in the middle of budget season, but I think that was one of the forward projects, that David, Wendy were talking about. But I had just a quick question that, to make sure Lauren and I understand. When I was looking at it earlier today, it's a residents may nominate a tree for consideration as a landmark tree by contacting DPW. I just want to confirm, Wendy, you said that even if it's me and I go and I nominate something as a landmark tree, and there's these bullet points of what would would classify it. You're actually just telling me though that the owner of the property really must agree to the designation.
On
Is
private
that
property.
is that the law? Private
That's what
property.
she's saying,
On
yes.
private property, yeah.
Just confirming that.
If then you sell your house and it continues, it's always a land like a store
Mhm.
situation. that you
Yeah.
can't-
Yes, but that's.
But there's a hardship appeal. There's a hardship appeal.
So I've got a couple
like
of
if the
comments.
property
I just have a question.
changes-
I've got a couple of comments to make. So
Yeah.
Julie, you made the comment about we planted 100 trees at the nature center,
Uh-huh.
right? Which someone had to write a check for. The nature center has approximately 300,000 trees in it, okay? Which have managed to grow and replace themselves without any intervention on our part, right, over the past 125 years.
I know you're gonna say.
Well, my question is, what is the economic value of planting 100 trees when we have a forest of 300,000?
Can I answer this?
Go ahead.
You can go
So the
ahead,
Nature
Wendy.
Center over the past 10 years actually has a project to remove non-native species trees, which actually harm our environment and aren't native to this area of New Jersey, and replace them with native species so that the Nature Center eventually will be a fully native forest, better for the habitat, better for the environment, better for the animals and that live in this area. So it's not just that they're planting trees in the middle of a forest, it's that they actually are doing a replacement tree program with the benefit of an environmental protection of that
How
area.
does a non-native tree get there?
Parking lot.
Wind, air, birds, it doesn't matter.
Isn't that a natural problem? This is a whole nother conversation, but I'm just raising an economic point, right? When you take the size of the nature center forest,
Ideally,
need to know.
it's getting planted back on the same property for that very reason, so that you have the expansion of areas that have the trees and the benefits and whatnot. It's not all congregated in one place.
Yeah, also, can I just add to, because the mayor brought up a question. So basically, when we have this situation of developing, large footprint, and they take it away from the, property that's there, our first goal, as you know, is to put back, mitigate on the property. However, as a town, we have a challenge when they can't do that. We don't have as many places to put trees. We're a very stressed community in that way. We don't have borough-owned property that is expansive to put trees. So we use the nature center, we use people's 10 feet within the right of way when they ask for it. But we have money where we want to put back these trees, and we don't have swaths of land that we can line our trees, along the street. So there's just very few locations. So when we came up with the nature center idea, and they also had this, what they call a forest regeneration, plan, it actually worked out very well, because they said, oh, here's our wish list of the trees that we want to do. And we were able to fund some of that with our shade tree fund. I want to be clear though, Mike from DPW, we've got over 30 trees that were planted last year throughout the town. That's when you'll see in the spring, you'll see trees being planted like along the school and stuff. And that's, of course, optimal. You don't want it all in the nature center. We just don't have all that much space. So, top line is we want people to replace on the property that they took it from. Then we want, okay, in borough parks, integrated throughout the community, and then the nature center. So that's just kind of the order of business.
So my second point was going to be, someone brought up the issue of fairness with the trees. So our ordinances are written in a way that if your property physically can't hold the replacement trees, then
Right.
you're effectively punished for not planting those trees, right? So why would, and I'm all for planting, I love trees as much as the next squirrel and guy over here, right? So my point is though, should our ordinances be intentionally punishing people who don't have room on their property for an excessive number of trees?
Is that not, maybe I'm just missing it, is that not possible? The words you just said, they're replacement trees. So at some point, there was a tree that
Down.
I appreciate.
A tree, correct.
Right, so I appreciate the challenge is that, you know, if people have a 100 square foot place, they want a
Mhm.
101 square foot house. And that's what creates the tree gap.
Correct.
If I
Yes.
understand it correctly.
Plan
these
plan
are-
accordingly.
The tree was there.
Right.
No, you have to
But-
sometimes replace two.
But you're not,
You have to do 2 trees for one.
so no, the ratio,
Depends on the size.
the ratio can get up to 5 to 1.
Right.
Because you take down.
You took down one big tree, now you have to put,
1,000
right, now you have to put 5 trees up, that sort of thing, or your money gets sacrificed. Go ahead, Lauren. So I'm raising the issue of if the smaller property owner is getting, we know before they even start that they're not going to be able to physically do that. Shouldn't the ordinance have appeals process or some sort of consideration for that? For the
Again,
smaller property owner?
So for fun.
Right.
I didn't write this. I just was done
Correct.
Before I was born.
Right.
I assume our forefathers said trees are important,
Trees are important.
and hence trees were there.
Mhm.
And what's been happening, I'm assuming, I never built a house, or certainly didn't build my house, that the house is becoming quote unquote too big, and therefore you can't replace the property. So I guess to your point, yes, we could decide as a council, trees are dumb, and allow everyone to put, 100% coverage of their facility. Alternatively, the flip side of it is, trees are the only thing that's important in the world, and everyone just gets one, small bathroom.
Right.
The rest of the property has to be trees.
Correct.
I assume we picked a.
Middle ground.
Not necessarily even a middle ground. We picked a ground that said there were trees on your property before. You can move them around, but we'd like to keep roughly the same amount of trees. Again, this is not my passion project. I appreciate Dr. O'Connor knows it better. I do want to make sure if I'm understanding correctly, we're not burdening people to say, the tree never fit on your property, we're now making you do 87 extra trees. The tree was on your property before you and George Washington, right?
Yes.
Cut it down, and therefore.
And we're a tremendous loss of trees.
George
here at
Washington
Pioneer
wasn't
this town.
subject to tree regulations.
Just so you know, and I'll bring these stats next week, next time, because I get it from Mike. But every year, Tenafly loses trees. Whatever we're trying to make, we are in the red with the trees.
Every year.
Every year upon year compound.
It's easier to pay
So
for.
just keep that in mind. We're
Laura?
not even close.
I just want to reiterate that our ordinances and our setbacks, they not only protect our areas for trees, but they protect our light, our air, they reduce nuisances. But really, what all of us need to pay attention to right now is flooding and stormwater. And if we are not recognizing the usefulness of trees in the environment and
That's,
yes, I know, it's debatable. It was debated at the property, at the planning board meeting the other night. I will say that
You know what? You know what sucks up a lot of water?
sand,
Bamboo. Be careful what you ask for.
I made it bad. My point is that our ordinances and the protections for neighboring properties are there for a reason.
Regular.
And that we as a council need to recognize that homeowners and neighboring properties of these new developments are complaining at a higher rate, regardless of these sewage pits and these claims that will take care of the water. It's not actually happening. So if we are going to consider our landmarking trees which have an entire root system in the ground, and all of these other trees that are being taken down, we need to seriously consider writing an ordinance that makes sense, that can be enforceable, that can be useful.
Well, I think you said last time that we should, you told me, that we should kind of give David and Wendy our direction, right? And then they would
Give us options.
give us some alternatives.
I wish I had some landscape.
I'm not really sure.
So I do have the chart up just to talk about replacement trees, and it's by caliper, which is the measurement of circumference, which is something I never thought I needed to know.
By type and caliber?
So it's 1-to-1 for a 4 to 12-inch caliper tree removed, 12 to 16 inches still one tree, but now declared a major tree. 16 to 18 inches is 2 trees, 18-inch to 24-inch tree would require 3, 24-inch to 30-inch caliber tree requires 4 mitigation trees. And then this is where you get into the problem, where the trees that would qualify for landmark trees are generally 30 inches or greater in caliper, and that requires 5 trees for replacement, plus 2 additional trees for each 5 inches diameter apart thereof over 30 inches. So if one big tree has to come down, that's where it gets to be difficult to replant on the property.
I don't think that was I don't think that was the, all due respect, I don't think that was the concern, quite frankly. It was a couple of people came and they were concerned. I don't know that was our concern. I think the concern was is there a way to protect that tree from coming down is what
No, I'm saying as far as
putting
meshing the
it
two
back-
together,
then
when you
no,
get into
it's-
the problem where people
Yeah.
have trouble fitting
You're right.
replacement trees on the property,
It ain't
it
gonna
could
happen.
just be because there was one
Yeah.
very large tree.
I
Most
think-
of the time, it's not that case, but, it's quite a lot comes down, like, being realistic.
Okay, so just to get a quick answer, so you had indicated the particular resident on the Pike that there is an appeal method for them to go
There
through?
is.
Okay, so David, so offline, communicate with David on that, and then David
Should
can
read the
communicate
code,
with the
it's in the
resident.
code, yeah.
I'm sorry, just to clarify, they come before us?
I don't know, David
You have to
will,
read it.
it comes before the council, okay? All right, this is public comment time. Audience members wishing to speak will have a 3-minute time limit to address the governing body on items on or off the agenda. Large groups are asked to have a spokesperson represent them. Would anyone in the chambers like to make a public comment here? Now is the time for that. No one in the chamber? Yes, come on up. And just give us your name, not your address, please.
Hi, everyone. Eyal Rosenthal. Firstly, I want to thank the mayor and the council members for their participation in the remembrance event about 2 weekends ago for the Vivas family. That was incredibly heartwarming and the definition of community. In addition, I know the council hasn't had time to talk about it. There have been other matters. Parking is downtown parking, and the permit issue is, I think, still something that's unresolved. I don't know if there's any visibility for when there will be resolution to business permits downtown in terms of discussions. And lastly, the workspace facility that I'm opening downtown is progressing well. There will be a soft opening in the next couple of days, and hopefully a grand opening in the second half of April. Once that happens, I will be in touch with David. And
great.
Thank you for
everybody,
coming
of
to
course.
the community, that's great.
Thanks for investing here.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
What was the business park thing?
We're going to talk about it in closed session. Yeah. The parking discussion will take place in closed session. Is there anyone, Omar, is there anyone online, anyone else in the chambers that would like to speak first?
Hold on.
Is there anyone else, anyone online that would like to make a public comment? Omar, do you see anyone?
If anyone online or on Zoom would like to make public comment, please, will make a public comment, please raise your hand. See no hands, Mayor.
Okay, we're going to close public comment and move on to the administrator's report. David?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I'd like to first bring up the Tenafly Municipal Swimming Pool Membership Program. So we have met the target minimum revenue goal. So,
Good job.
Hey, where's the energy? Come on.
Yay, team!
He was very excited.
I was very excited. I used all my energy up this morning.
So that stated, additional membership drive is really the goal. Because every membership we get in reduces the ultimate amount of money that the borough needs to supplement or subsidize the program with. So it would be my recommendation that we continue the early bird rates through March 16th of 2025, and this would be for borough residents, and then that is also afforded to borough employees and school employees as well.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah, March 16th gives them a few more weeks.
And the employee one, can we just make that permanent?
It's up to the council.
That price.
Yeah, just lock in that price. They're employees.
An employee price.
No, I was
Say
just,
resident. You say,
No,
Yeah,
we
the
did.
employees,
Yes,
they're
they were
afforded
included.
that already.
Yeah, they're already
Yeah,
afforded.
just make that one permanent.
yeah, that's something.
So they would get the resident rate, which they would also get the early bird rate, but only until March 16th.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Okay.
Three of you are good with that? You guys good over here? Okay, we're good with that. So just for everyone, so we're going to extend it to March 16th. Okay?
Just like a point of comparison and then disagree, a lot of people say, I didn't check this today, too early birds around April 1st. I'm not sure how budgeting works for the town and if this is important in terms of March 16th.
So what do you have to come up, Janet, come up to the mic. Yeah.
I don't have a dog in this fight.
No, it's just, but we have to,
No?
the council approved it, so you need to edit it if we're going to change it, right? So what were you saying to April?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have this right on top of my mind right now, but I think from memory that a lot of pools do early bird until April 1st. So just something to think about as families are thinking about camps and whatnot. I don't think the enrichment program in town is even going to announce their program until April, I think. So it could be something to think about.
Oh,
So
okay.
I think the
March
situation
15th,
is,
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
this being the first year,
Okay.
we're investing a lot of money, right? There's a double amount of money we're investing.
Yeah.
One, to fix it up, and then two, to supplement.
Yeah,
So we're trying, the more we can get before these next 2 weeks,
this is
the lower
cute.
we get to
Our
bring
expense.
out our taxes. So
And-
that's what I'm trying
And
to
it gets clarity to our CFO. We need to wrap up the budget and get it to the auditors for.
Next year's a lot
orderly
easier,
introductions.
it's a steady.
Translates
Just
into
letting
March
you know.
16th it
March
is.
16th it is.
Change all the flyers.
Thank, keep up the great work.
Great job.
The next item, which is the first on my memo, is the post office parking lot RFP, RFQ responses. That was publicly noticed, I think, back in November. So it was a 90-day, sorry? November, yes, it was a 90-day period that we had allowed for responses. The deadline was this past Friday, the 20th of February. We received 2 responses. And I think the next order of business would be to have the borough attorney, our borough special planner who wrote the RFP, and myself, just go through them, both of them, to see if they are responsive and responsible to the RFP, RFQ. And then from there, I know that the council and the mayor want to be transparent on this process, to schedule a meeting for the purpose of going through and hearing from the responders on the proposals and presenting their proposals to the council at a meeting called for that purpose.
Do you have that checklist to see if they both were in compliance? Is that what you?
Yes,
So
and we'll, you know,
theoretically,
frankly,
one might not
Yeah, I mean, I would lean heavily on Dave Novak, our special planner for that, and Wendy and I will look at it from the perspective of the legal issues and the administrative process. But basically, they say it's in compliance and responsive to the RFP. We would rely heavily on Dave Novak to say it is. Our next 2 things are the flood control grant, which is basically the Congressman Gottheimer grant of $1.6 million. We did have an initial meeting with HUD, and this has been assigned to HUD in New Jersey. So we have an assigned grant manager, and this $1.6 million grant is for destacking and stream cleaning. There is a 25% match, so the borough would be responsible for $400,000, so it would be a $2 million budget all in. Borough engineer has to complete an environmental review, and once completed, I'll upload those grant documents to HUD, which would then result in a grant disbursement agreement. And then we can start drawing down those costs. This particular grant, unlike other federal grants, is a drawdown grant, so we can put in monthly expenses and get it drawn down so it doesn't harm our cash flow, as opposed to other grants that are wholly reimbursable after the project is completed. There's an opportunity under FEMA for a grant to really plan out and scope resiliency and stabilization. After speaking with New Jersey OEM and our engineers the other day, it was determined that our best course of action would be to apply for a scoping grant, get that scoping grant awarded, get incorporate all NJDEP permits that are necessary within that scoping grant. And then once that is accomplished, we would be in a better position to get an actual grant awarded for further flood control activity.
The scoping grant would be something that is reimbursed for the whole work?
Well, the scoping grant would fund the engineering work, basically, on determining what the grant or the stream bank stabilization and resiliency process. And a lot of that is going to be the DEP permits that are going to be needed if we are going to do any dredging or work on the stream banks themselves, as compared to the HUD grant, which is basically cleaning up debris and rock and so forth that are just in the way of water flow. And then if there's any other questions on my report, I'd be glad to answer those questions.
Can I get an idea? Are we still on track with an April 1st kind of opening for the Grove Street?
Yes, I have actually a meeting in the field tomorrow with the contractor and the engineer at 9 o'clock. So I'll be able to give you a written answer on where we stand with that. But we are shooting for, if not April 1st, certainly early April. The weather, hopefully it's going to continue to warm, and they can get the asphalt and the concrete poured shortly, and the skate park equipment will be in place. So I would suspect that this is not going to go too deep into it.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Swim pools and skate parks.
Let's move on to the ordinances. You ready, Omar?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2508, outside duty. Omar, could you please read the confirmation of publication of the ordinance and the title?
Sure. Ordinance number 25-08. It was published in the February 23rd edition of the Record. It's an ordinance of the Borough of Tenafly, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 2, Administration of Government, Article 3, Police Department, Volunteer Ambulance Corps, Fire Department, Section 2-445, Police Department of the Revised General Ordinances of the Borough of Tenafly, 2004.
I'd like to open the floor for any public comment on ordinance 2508 only. Are there any members of the public here that would like to speak on this ordinance? Okay. Omar, is there anyone online who would like to speak on this ordinance?
See no hands, Mayor.
Okay, we're going to close public comment on this ordinance. Councilman Park, could I have a motion, please?
I move to pass and adopt on second and final reading ordinance 25-08, and that notice of the same shall be published according to law.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Omar, could you please conduct a roll call?
Sure. Councilmember Corsair?
Yes.
Councilmember Dayton?
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels?
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Ordinance 25-09, Washington Street parking limits. Omar, could you please read the confirmation of publication of the ordinance and the title?
Sure. Ordinance number 25-09. It was published in the February 23rd edition of the Record. Is an ordinance of the Borough of Tenafly, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 7 parking of the Revised General Ordinances of the Borough of Tenafly, 2004.
What does this one do? If I could just have a reminder?
This is the, this is,
Saying like the 430-minute parking spots. on
Oh,
Washington.
right, yeah,
Designating.
Front of that. Yeah.
4 30-minute ones. Right, gotcha.
Okay, I'd like to open the floor for public comment on ordinance 2509 only. Anyone in the chamber that would like to speak, please come forward. Okay, is there anyone online that would like to speak, Omar?
See no hands, Mayor.
Okay, Omar, can you please, I'm going to close the public comment time. And Councilwoman Dr. O'Connor, would you like to make a motion?
Sure. I move to pass and adopt on second and final reading ordinance 25-09, and that notice of same shall be published according to law.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Omar, please call the roll.
Councilmember Corsair?
Yes.
Councilmember Dayton?
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels?
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay, could I get a motion to approve the consent agenda, resolutions R25-131 through R25-161?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
Omar, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Corsair?
Yeah.
Councilmember Dayton?
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels?
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Did we have a date on the fireworks?
July 5th.
Oh, nice.
Because what we just, so you don't think I'm insane, it's what we just, what we just had for the public is one of the resolutions is we awarded the contract for the fireworks.
That's correct.
Right, July 5th.
Okay, could I get a motion to approve the minutes of January 7th, 2025 Mayor and Council meeting and January 21st, 2025 Mayor and Council meeting?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
So,
All in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
I just want to make note, I wasn't at one of those meetings.
okay. Committee reports, Councilwoman Dayton.
So the planning board met the other night. There was 2 applications. The first one is on the corner of East Clinton and Engle. It's a historic house set up, White House with a 200-year-old or plus old beech tree, and the house was approved for a subdivision. It's going to become 2 homes. One driveway is going to exit into Engle Street and one into Stonehurst, which is the very next street. It was a split vote. I will say the mayor and I both discussed the concerns of our residents of flooding and stormwater management in and around this property. It did pass, though. It will be subdivided. The second application is actually downtown, near Emmanuel Deli. They would like to build a 3-story apartment building. It has not come in detail before the planning board, but it's amongst those houses where Jim Moscone's base is.
Near Jimmy Moscone's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it Railroad?
That's the old,
Railroad.
the gentleman who used to repair the lawn mowers, that whole area.
Yes, so that building would
Yeah.
like to become
Yeah.
stores on the bottom and 2 residential floors on the top.
2 residential floors, correct.
Correct. So that will come before the planning board next meeting.
Correct.
And let's see, Pride Committee, yes. we
Can I just have a quick question about your planning board? We're in the subdivided property, they were only asking for 1 variance, really, right? Is it, and did they
Yes.
get that variance?
Steep slopes.
The
Yes,
slope,
it's a steep slope soil movement variance.
they got that?
They did, it was approved. Everything else actually was already zoned
Right,
and
that's what I
stayed within
meant.
the zone requirements, all setback size, everything else. It will take down that large tree and they will need to mitigate in our
So steep,
ordinance.
the steep slopes variance they received.
It will. But again, we really do need to look at our water. One of the things that I think the mayor and I were successful at arguing was that additional water maintenance in and around East Clinton and Engle on that traffic corner needs to be looked at, reviewed, and dealt with.
Yeah, the conversation amongst us was concern on water problems in town, or the vast majority of it happens on the East Hill.
Okay.
Because the water gets tunneled, and it reaches high velocity and causes a lot of damages.
Okay.
Not that we don't have problems on the lower end in terms of elevations, but most of it's on the East Hill, so.
And we did get the property owner to consider adding an additional drainage function in and around that corner. So that is good for, all the houses around there. The fire did not meet, Pride did not meet. We do need again, anybody out there who wants to join our Pride Committee, we are still looking for members.
I want to throw something out there. Can we make Pride an official borough committee?
How does that process work?
It was the very first year under the ordinance that established it. It was,
I don't think it was.
because I was,
No, because I paid for the insurance.
I know, because the Dems offered it as a nice thing.
No, like I paid for it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think
I paid for
it
everything else
is.
that year, but it was.
I don't think it is.
It was a government, and then it got moved.
So why don't we
Never.
put that on, like the next agenda for conversation?
To be
Okay.
considered.
And this way, it gives Wendy time to figure out exactly what our options and
lingo, yeah.
statuses are.
I mean, the main issue of making it committee, not committee, of course, is insurance. And I think Pride very much every year has
It's a
to
part of Tenafly
find
now.
funding for its own insurance independently. So making it part of our government and an established committee here would be beneficial for them.
Okay, we'll put it on an agenda.
Thank you.
Discuss. Council President, thank you, Lauren.
Senior Center, really cool things they keep doing. I don't know, I think the mayor would love jewelry class they did last week.
Really?
It's a good felt class.
Felt?
But I'd highly recommend folks taking a look. They have great shows. They're going to The Outsiders actually in a couple weeks on Broadway. So please reach out to Michelle and the Senior Center team. Some really cool stuff going on there. Downtown Committee, please mark your calendars, Sunday, May 4th for Spring Fling. And then we also had a joint use last week. This is where the school board and the council get together. Spent a lot of time talking about how we could kind of share services together and drive down costs. Obviously, we have one budget for, we send out taxes to our residents as one group. So the more that we can do together to drive down costs, the more we can save our residents. So we had a number of good conversations on that.
Thank you. Councilwoman Corsair?
Spring sports registration is online, so make sure you sign up for your spring sports through the rec department. Also, you can sign up for the Reckies camp online. So those two things are open, and that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Dr. O'Connor?
So Environmental Commission met this last week, and Dan can tell if I miss anything. Just a few highlights. At this point, we've diverted 27,500 pounds of food waste with our compost
Congratulations.
program. So it's good. We do need people to participate. You want to be able to keep it going, but we've done a great job so far. We have, of course, our high school division. We have a high school green team that comes to report, and they're planning a birdhouse building project at the Nature Center for March. And they also have a cleanup for the Tennekill Brook area planned for March 18th with Hackensack Riverkeeper, which I facilitated for them. So we'll get some nice pictures. Arbor Day is going to be April 25th at McKay School this year. Each year, for anyone who doesn't know, that we pick a different school to get the tree. It's already been approved by the superintendent and principal. We are embarking on a project about, now that you've been seeing the Skip the Stuff posters into different eateries. I did see in Pizza Nova. We've started the education campaign, I assume, David, thank you for that, where people have to affirmatively ask for their plastic utensils. We're going to expand this idea of reducing plastic and embark in a new project, still in its infancy, right, in the figuring it out stage, which is about recyclable containers and ensuring that our businesses are using the type of containers that can be recycled. So we're doing a little research on that, and I'll keep you posted on that. Tenafly Nature Center had come requesting volunteers for their Nature Center's annual boundary walk because that'll be March 9th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Participants will walk the boundary and see if there's any garbage to be collected along the boundary walk. So the Northern Valley Greenway came to the Environmental Commission meeting, and they were talking just about different times where they have, there's a municipal committee meeting for the Greenway project where that'll be March 6th. So if anyone's interested in going to that to look with the other communities impacted by the by this Northern Valley Greenway project, we didn't have a location on that yet, but if anyone's interested in attending.
Demarest Borough Hall,
Demarest Borough Hall, March 6th. Thank you so much.
6:30.
And so this would be, just for anyone who doesn't know, it's to run through 6 towns in Bergen County: Tenafly, Cresskill, Demarest, Closter, Norwood, Northville. Okay. Hackensack River Nation Summit is being held at Fairleigh Dickinson on April 22nd. And the summit is there to discuss stormwater management planning and building trails in urban environments. So that was, if anyone's interested in that, please participate. So that's kind of the big highlights, but a lot we're getting accomplished in projects.
Okay, thank you. Dan Park?
TVAC met Monday. The medical director ran a training on Narcan and an education on its use and why it's used. So trainings are happening.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right, for my mayor's remark, the only comment I have is I'm going to appoint Lauren Tuval to the Downtown Committee. So we're very happy to have her time and energy. It's wonderful. Okay. So could you read the closed session language, please?
Sure. It's Resolution R25-162 at a meeting of the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Tenafly, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, held on March 4th, 2025. Be it resolved in compliance with NJSA 10:4-12, the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Tenafly are going into closed executive session to discuss the following matters: in real property, borough leases, and potential property acquisitions update. Minutes will be taken of the meeting and released to the public at the time that the matter is resolved.
Have a motion to go into close, please. Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, we'll see everyone inside.